Misfitians, and welcome to 2020. So for today's video, it's going to be more of a vlog type video. I'm going to be doing the first watercolor painting of 2020. And I actually wanted to do this last week, but I got the flu and it put me down. I was starting to feel symptoms, but I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then finally it just hit me and I was out for like 5 days. So if I sound a little bit congested or something like that, that's kind of the residual effects afterwards. So I apologize for that. But this video was supposed to go up last Saturday, but it's gonna be today. So today what I wanted to do while I'm painting my first watercolor painting of 2020, I wanted to talk about New Year's resolutions. And some of you might have made some and already broken some. Some of you I've noticed in the past are like, I don't want to have anything to do with New Year's resolutions. And that's perfectly fine. But this year I wanted to kind of change my strategy. I love New Year's resolutions. I love kind of setting goals for myself, even though I might not necessarily achieve all of those goals. I like setting goals for myself. It's kind of like reach for the stars and you might land on the moon type kind of thing. And so I like setting goals for myself, but this year I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to actually choose resolutions that would work on my mental health as well as work on how I kind of perceive and work on thought process, basically. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be painting a watercolor painting as well as talking about 4 New Year's resolutions that I have made for 2020 that I absolutely refuse to break. And I refuse to break them as an artist as well as a person in everyday life. So you'll see more about that later. So let's go ahead and start. All right, so for resolution number 1 that I refuse to break for 2020 is I refuse to be ashamed of my beginnings. And this can be taken a lot of different ways, but for me personally, I am currently working on a ton of new projects and new opportunities that have opened up to me over the past couple of months. I'm currently working on a story. I'm also working on a very, very large project that's taking a lot of my time. And that's a secret project, unfortunately, that I can't talk about. But there's just a lot of different things that I'm working on for 2020 that I never would have had the opportunity to do if I hadn't pursued art as my job. That being said, sometimes when I look back on basically the years in the past that I didn't pursue art because of anxiety or because of things that happened in my life, when I think about the time that I lost, I get very discouraged because I feel like I should be so much further along than what I am. And so I really want to stop that habit. It's not healthy, number 1. It's not productive, number 2. So I want to start really focusing on celebrating my beginnings. These are new beginnings that I am just pursuing and really diving deep and digging into getting better at my art, but not beating myself up because I feel like I should be further along. And that kind of leads into the second resolution that I want to really pursue in 2020, which is not be afraid to try new things and really get out of my comfort zone where I am willing to just play around and experiment and not worry about failing. So since I'm trying these new things and doing a lot of new projects, a lot of times anxiety can grip me and really slow me down, where I'm like, oh my word, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if this is gonna go the way I planned, and like all of these thoughts. And I'm sure if any of y'all have anxiety when it comes to art, you have the same thoughts that go through your brain. And once again, that's not productive. It's not helpful. I need to stop thinking of my art as a pass-fail activity and think of it more as an experiment where, okay, I'm gonna try something new, and if it doesn't work, it's not that big of a deal. And I really need to start thinking of my art in that way, because immediately it's gonna just release a lot of anxiety, and it's going to force me into doing things that I probably wouldn't have done before, because I wanted that particular art project to be perfect. And so I wanted to stay in my comfort zone and stay within the things that I knew worked and not really try things that might not work. But at the same time, that mindset of staying in that safe comfort zone, you're never going to learn anything new. You're never going to try anything new. And so how is your art, or even you as a person, going to evolve and change and grow? So this particular year, what I really want to do is start challenging myself to get out of that comfort zone and to try new things without the fear of failing. So that would be resolution number 2 that I really want to pursue for 2020. And resolution number 3 that I absolutely refuse to break this year is I want to really work on positive talk within my head. And yeah, you heard me right. You've probably already kind of figured that out based on the previous 2 resolutions that I've been talking about. But this girl, inside of her head, is her very own worst critic. So that negative talk is constantly in my head. I'm constantly self-doubting myself. I'm constantly thinking I'm no good. This isn't going to work. I am my own worst troll. Anything that you could think of negative to say to me about my art or about me as a person, trust me, I have said it in my head already. I am my own worst critic. I am my own worst troll. And so sometimes when people say those things, I'm like, yeah, I've already told myself that. And I laugh at it, but at the same time, it is in my head constantly. And so I really, this year, want to stop doing that and instead start talking positive about myself as an artist, about myself as a person, and basically about myself in my process. So a lot of times when things go wrong, the very first thing that will come into my head is, oh, there you go again, Carrie, you screwed it up, you didn't do it right, and stuff. But instead of looking at it in that respect, I should change that thought process and think more, well, that didn't work, but why didn't that work? How can I learn from this and grow from this as a person? Another thing I could just spin it around on its head is be like, okay, well, we know that particular route didn't work, but could that work in another area? So sometimes when things go wrong, maybe you weren't planning on it, but at the same time, could you incorporate that into something that's a positive? So I hope that kind of makes sense, but basically take something that is negative or what you weren't planning on and spin it and turn it into a positive. And the one way that I kind of think about the visual picture, I love to think in visual pictures. The visual picture that I keep thinking of is in culture, if a vase or a piece of pottery breaks, they don't replace the piece of pottery. They don't just throw it out. Instead, they'll fill that crack with gold. And it's kind of to accent, yeah, it's broken, but there's beauty in that brokenness. And so that's kind of what I want to start doing with myself, but also with my art. Thinking, okay, maybe this didn't go according to plan, but where is the beauty that I can pull out of that and really accent it and bring it up? So I want to start changing how I think about stuff and how I self-talk to myself. And that's going to be very, very huge for me to do because I am very much a negative talker inside of my head. So that's going to probably be the hardest one of these 3 resolutions to try and keep up with. And finally, the last resolution that I refuse to break in 2020 is I refuse to compare myself to other artists. So I am really bad about looking at other YouTubers or looking at other artists on this platform who are very talented and then thinking, I'm no good. I am not as good as that person. I'm not as good as this person over here. But the thing is, they have their own journey that they are going on, and I have my own journey that I'm going on. So I am going to refuse for 2020 to compare myself to other artists or other people. Instead, what I want to start doing is focusing more on my own journey and really looking back on previous art that I have done in the past and really celebrating how far I've come. So instead of looking at someone else, they had a completely different journey than me, and comparing my journey to their journey, which is very stupid. That's like, okay, if we really put that into perspective, that's almost like me who doesn't run competitively trying to compare myself to an Olympic athlete. Like, it sounds so stupid, but then at the same time, we do it all the time, where we look at someone else's journey and then we compare our own journey to their journey. And we're like, why am I not there? And then we get bogged down on ourselves. I'm mainly talking to myself right now. But at the same time, they have their own journey. They have their own struggles that they've gone through. There are things that I'm sure a lot of times on social media, we only show the positive elements of our life. So there are things that they're going through that we don't even see. So why am I comparing myself with that person over there when I really should be focusing on my journey and how far I've come? So if I look back 3 years ago, really 4 years from when I started Watercolor Misfit and I really started pursuing art, more than a hobby, but as a job, basically trying to do it every day instead of just trying to do it every once in a while when I felt like doing it. If I compare my journey from then to now, there is a huge difference in just how much my art has grown. And I really need to start focusing more on that and celebrating, wow, this is where I've gone. So think about how far I've gone in 3 years. What is it going to look like 3 years from now for my journey when I'm looking back now on this point, when I'm making this video? 3 years in the future, I'm going to be at a completely different place and a completely different spot. Hopefully I'm better and stuff. But at the same time, I want to focus more on my own personal journey and not focus on other people's journey. So I like to say it this way. I want to stay in my own lane. I want to kind of put blinders on and admire other people's artwork, but at the same time, really focus on where I'm at, where I'm going, and not get distracted. So that is kind of a sum up of the 4 resolutions that I really want to focus on for 2020. So if I have left anything out or y'all would like to add to those resolutions down below, please leave a comment. I would love to read those comments and interact with any of y'all. If I'm not posting on this channel like last week, I was planning on posting a video last week. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. I am constantly updating y'all on Instagram as well as Facebook. I'll make sure to provide links down below for that so you can know what's going on pretty much on a daily basis. I post there almost every day except for on the weekends, which is family time. So anyway, that is it. It is hard to believe that we are in a new decade. That is crazy. 10 years ago, dang, 10 years ago, I was such a little baby. Is crazy to think about, but here's to 2020 and here's to a fantastic new decade of pursuing art, being happy about our journey, and thinking positive thoughts while we paint. So lots of love, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this video, and here is the finished product of the painting that I did for today. Lots of love, y'all, and I'll see you next time. Bye!